Good morning. It is April 25th. Happy Sunday. We're going to do week 2 of Love Hate. This is a 3-week series, so when we're back together next week, we will finish it up. So today we're going to continue talking about love and hate and how we want to live our lives. So to start off, have you ever been really thankful that one of your friends or maybe a family member gave you a heads up, like, yo, you got something in your teeth, or like, check your fly, your shoe's untied, toilet paper stuck to it, the person you're talking about is right behind you, any of those moments. It's a little bit awkward, right? We don't like hearing that we have something on our face or in our teeth, but then we're like grateful that someone's able to kind of subtly point it out so we don't have to be fully embarrassed for the rest of our day, right? So let's think about this from the other side. Have you ever felt like you should really say sorry, there's my text just came through. Have you ever felt like you should really say something to someone, but then you weren't sure how to go about saying it? Like you didn't want to like make them feel awkward or offend them or something. And saying, "Hey, there's something in your tooth," not that difficult. But what about talking to a friend who's dating someone you're like, that person's really not good for you. That's pretty toxic. You shouldn't be in that relationship. Or confronting someone about a decision that they made that isn't a good one and it's not helping them out, or speaking up about something that is going to get your friend in trouble. Those feel a little bit different. They're a little bit harder. Speaking up in those situations is way beyond difficult. Oops. So there we go. We usually try to just avoid these situations. But why do we do that? Like, why are we trying to avoid all these situations where we're calling people out and things? Sometimes it's because we don't want to ruin a friendship. We're worried that if we say something, our friend will be so offended that they'll get really mad and it might ruin that relationship. Maybe it's more because we're doing, or maybe we've done the exact same thing that they're doing, and we feel like we don't have the right to say anything or tell someone to stop a certain decision because we've already made that decision. So we feel like we don't it's not our place to say anything. Maybe we don't think the other person will listen. Maybe we think that, we'll go through all this effort and we'll feel awkward trying to tell someone something, and then they just won't listen. Or maybe we just don't know what to say or how to say it. We're not sure how to find the words for us. For some of us, there are people in the world where this situation, it's totally opposite. There's no problem telling people exactly how they feel, how they see things, not shy about speaking up at all. Problem with that, though, is that you may not always be speaking up in a way that causes people to listen. If you're kind of that person who's always blunt and says exactly what's on their mind, sometimes people might not want to listen to that. So if you've ever wrestled with any of this stuff, good news is that you're not alone. We've all been there. We all know what it feels like to know that we need to say something and yet find ourselves unsure of what to say or how to say it so that it'll actually be heard. So, what if we could learn a different way to approach those difficult conversations? What if there was a way to be helpful and kind when we're choosing to speak up and call people out? What if there was a way to have a difficult conversation that ends up bringing about something good and has a positive change? So, no one wants to be known. Obviously, no one wants to be known as a hater. No one wants to be hateful in the way they approach things, right? They don't want to be seen as I'm such an amazing person. I'm that friend who talks about everything everyone else does wrong, right? We don't want to be that person. We want our reputation to stand out for the right reasons, for how we love and treat other people. So when it comes to being a friend who looks out for others, how do we make sure that we are handling these difficult situations in the right way? So last time we talked about how we want to be all about love. So why wouldn't we want to have a relationship for loving, or a reputation for loving others, right? No matter how tough we want to appear or how trendy hating on others might be, we all know it's better to be known for loving others. But if love's the goal, how are we supposed to handle it when somebody is literally doing something bad or dangerous or just dumb? Maybe we should just avoid them. This seems to be the way we're supposed to behave. We're all just supposed to be okay with everyone else's choices because it's their life, and who are we to judge, right? And I think deep down we know that that isn't always the case, especially when it comes to the people closest to us. So what do we do then when it's our really close friends? So Paul actually talked about the same thing in a letter to the church in a region called Galatia. So it's actually where Turkey is today. So if you picture Turkey on a map, that's where it's written too. And so Paul gave a little bit of insight on this topic. Oops. There we go. And he wrote, "Dear brothers and sisters, if another believer is overcome by some sin, you who are godly should gently and humbly help that person back onto the right path. And be careful not to fall into the same temptation." That's from Galatians 6, verse 1. What he's saying here is that if the Galatians have any friends who share the same values but slip up and do something that's harmful, then their responsibility is to help that person get back on the right track. In other words, what he's saying here is you and I should actually go further than just saying something in a conversation. We should help someone get back to the best place they can be, on track with what God says is best. So there's a lot of things that Paul isn't saying here. He isn't saying that you are personally responsible for making sure your friends make good choices. He is not saying that you should put yourself in a position that sets you up for failure when you're trying to help your friends. Wisdom in these conversations and situations is definitely a must. So the point is, according to Paul, with humility and gentleness, you and I can help people who are struggling with making poor decisions get back on the right track. So Paul continues, share each other's burdens, and in this way, obey the law of Christ. So how do we get them back on track, right? By carrying each other's burdens. Think about it kind of this way. In the world of working out and training and fitness and all that, there's a person who's known as a spotter. So if you guys have ever done weightlifting in gym, there's a spotter. And the spotter is there to help when the weight gets to be too heavy and the person lifting it no longer is able to lift that weight on their own. So when that happens, the spotter carries the weight too. They carry the burden of the barbell along with the person doing the lifting. One of the things I remember in high school, we had advanced conditioning. We would be doing bench press and trying to reach our max on that. And so you'd be laying down and you'd have a bar ahead, on top of you, and you would lift it ahead of you, bring it down to your chest, and then push it back up. And your goal was to see how much weight you could lift, right? So at some point, we hit the point where we could not lift anymore. We were not strong enough for adding another 5 pounds. So we would have someone standing right behind us. We're laying down. They're standing behind us, and their hands would be under the bar. And when it hit that point of I can't lift it, that's when they would step in and they would help. That's the spotter. They step in and help when you're lifting heavy weights. So that is exactly what we do in life, right? We're supposed to be spotters. We help people get back on the right path. Paul cared really deeply about the people in Galatia, which is why he wrote what he did. He knew that the most loving thing that we can do isn't always the easiest thing to do, but we owe it to everyone to speak up, because the truth is we need each other, not just to point out where others might have gotten off track, but to come alongside them and help them carry the burden of getting back to the place that they should be, because it's difficult, it's challenging. So in other words, Jesus' followers must do much more than just speak up or point out what's wrong. We get to be the spotters in the lives of others. So to help make right where things have gone wrong, we don't just point fingers, we share burdens. Some of us are like, hey, I'm still afraid to speak up. That's still really hard. Paul snuck in 2 words that would be really helpful to keep in mind. He says that we should be gentle and humble, meaning that what we say is just as important as how we say it. The loving act is not to sound judgmental or arrogant or self-righteous, right? Being kind and helpful and encouraging shows people that we want to help them out of love. And those hard conversations are not easy, but avoiding that conversation isn't loving either. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing to just avoid that conversation. And enjoying a hard conversation, making someone look bad and feel terrible about themselves, make ourselves look really great, that's not loving either. In fact, the conversation isn't really the point. The point is learning to ask the question, am I showing, whoops, I guess I thought there was going to be one. There's not. Am I showing love in how I'm treating this person? Love pushes us to talk about difficult things, and love also pushes us to be compassionate and kind in the way that we say those things. That's what love does. It shares the burden by caring about the person who is carrying it and not just about ourselves. So, what does that look like, and how can you begin to put that into practice, even just this week, right? Some of you might even be picturing that friend that you need to have that hard conversation with. You can already picture, this is what I need to say. How do I say it? What should I do? So, first things first for figuring out how to help people is to let love be your filter. Keep that in mind, right? Think of on Snapchat or Instagram when you choose a filter for a photo, right? It changes what you see. It changes what the image looks like. Same is true for choosing love as a filter in our life, and the way that you see people, the way that you see things, where you look, what you're seeing, you can see things differently. You won't be known for loving others if the way you handle hard conversations and treat others is not loving. So when it comes to helping our friends who are making maybe some poor decisions, we really need to look at our words and actions through the filter of love. When we help someone make a different choice than they've been making, we do it even if it makes us feel totally awkward in the moment, right? When we encourage someone else to change his or her behavior, we need to do it in a loving way, not a judgmental way. When we see someone taking a step in the right direction, we should encourage and celebrate them because we love them, and that's what love does. So, what exactly should a filter of love be applied to? Here's a couple ideas. Let love be the filter for your involvement. So, when you aren't sure if you should get involved in a friend's situation, ask yourself, what's the most loving thing I can do? Using that question as a filter for your actions and your next steps provides kind of a gut check for your motives and reminds you that your motives should be rooted in love. If the loving thing to do is to get involved to help someone get back on the right path, then you'll know to take the next step. It can be a little bit tricky to figure that out, so don't hesitate to ask, someone you trust, an adult, a parent, one of us, someone that you trust. The next step is let love be the filter in your words. Ask yourself, how would I want someone to speak to me, and what would I want him or her to say? So if I was in this situation, how would I want someone to approach me? When your words are filtered through love, you'll stop making sure that you're not just throwing shade. This isn't about making you look right and making them look wrong. Instead, you'll be letting them know that you're there to carry their burdens with them. Your words can spark hope or cast judgment. So if you filter them through love, they'll be words that can help get someone else's life back on track. Once you have a word filter in place, it's time to take the next step, which would be to let love be the filter of your actions and reactions. If we have friends who are having a hard time keeping their lives headed in the right directions, chances are that they won't just need your words, they're going to need your help too. Um, and we've heard that actions speak louder than words. So it's very important that our actions follow our words and are filtered through love. Ask yourself, how would I want someone to live out their love if I were in this situation? Would you want them to keep their phone close in case you needed them, or would you want them to pick you up? Would you want them to talk to an adult to help you out? Would you want them to say some hard things and then follow those words up with accountability and continuous conversation to help keep you on track? So really putting yourselves in your friend's shoes can help you filter through what you would hope that your actions should be. So no matter what the situation is, if you filter your actions through love, you'll wind up being known for the way that you love others, and you'll live out Paul's call to carry the burdens of other people. When we let love be our filter, we wind up sharing the burdens of those we love. So imagine what our schools and our friendships and our families would look like if there were more people filtering all of their involvement in other people's lives through love. If they took all their words and they filtered them through love and came and approached people and said those hard things and had those difficult conversations, not out of judgment and hate, but out of love, right? We would definitely be able to help keep each other from regret and mistake and unnecessary heartbreak or negative consequences. And who knows, maybe that filter of love could even change the direction of someone else's life for the better and forever. So let's be people who let love be our filter so that we can help those that we love stay headed in the best direction for their lives. So that's our goal right there. There are questions in the details below that you can journal through yourself or process through with a parent. And we will see you next week when we finish this up together.